into something that caused a bunch of rants and discussions and anger and feelings. The Will Borgen or Kaapo Kakko trade. So the full details. Um, the Kraken received forward Kaapo Kakko in exchange for defenseman Will Borgen, and two draft picks, a third and a sixth, both in the upcoming draft. I believe they're both the upcoming draft.
They are.
Um, that's what the NHL said. If they lied to me,
It's not our fault.
Gary. Um, before we bring any thoughts about anything else into it, okay, I just want your hockey thoughts. We will talk about the emotions. Okay. Your hockey thoughts this trade. You know, you get Kaapo Kakko, a guy that was drafted really high, who had a lot of expectation, who seems to have the talent, just doesn't click. The puzzle hasn't been completed. You send off Will Borgen, someone who, you know, did play top 4 minutes defensively for this team, has been an original Kraken. His career really has blossomed here, right? Year one, he was a scratch for, I think, all of the year, basically. Obviously, very well loved. And you send a few draft picks. Um, Silvia will go to you, Jade will go to you, and then we'll come to me to go to the emotion side of it. I think it makes sense. I'm not talking emotions. I think it makes sense. Will Borgen, oh, I was going to say he's not on my Puckpedia list because obviously he's been traded. But he was going to become a free agent at the end of the year. Um, you know, you've already got your kind of top three defensemen um, in Vince Dunn, Adam Larson, Jamie Alexiak. You add Brandon Montour, obviously that impacts that. Riker Evans is a guy who you've grown yourself here in the organization. He's going to get paid soon. Will Borgen's making $2.7 million as you know one of your bottom, carrying defensemen. It we get to the off season, I really don't think he resigns here, unfortunately, unless he takes a pay cut. And Wolf's young enough. I don't think he wants a pay cut, you know. So yeah, again, hockey wise, I try to leave the emotion out of it. Uh we'll go Sylvia, Jade, and then we can talk about emotions after that.
Okay. Hockey wise, I think we won. And yeah, I know you technically can't win trades, but I think we won the trade. Um, I I mean, it was very obvious that Will Borgen was struggling. I don't think he had a single shot on goal in the last 4 or 5 games that he played with the Kraken. I might be wrong. In the last 3 games that he played with the Kraken, if I remember correctly. Um, so
Check.
like that's a pretty big thing, right? I just watching him play because there I do have an OG Borgie lover in my life, so like I do pay a little bit more closer attention to him than most people will have to. He just wasn't doing very good. I think there were a lot of turnovers, and we saw the Kraken, their whole like turnovers on the blue line is like a big thing for them. Will Bergen was just not somebody who was willing to kind of get opportunities in the last like few games. It just didn't look like his heart was in it. And um, I before this whole trade, I did not pay a lot of attention to Kaapo Kakko, but his numbers look good. Obviously, we saw him play today against the Avs, scored his first goal, and a really nice goal too. It was beautiful. So like I said, I think we won. I think it goes back to we're kind of waiting who the Kraken become, what the Kraken do, and that's what people have been waiting for. Kako is who are you going to be? We have really high expectations of you. They're kind of, we're kind of having some narratives, some mirrors of each other here. They have very high expectations of this team. We have they had very high expectations of this player. And he just needed a little bit more care than what the Rangers were willing to offer. So I'm hopeful. I don't know if that's I think that's a little bit more emotions, but again, I think we won. I'm hopeful for what we're doing. I think it was a good trade, and I think it's what maybe I don't know how to say this correctly. I think it's what this team needed. And by team I mean my cat just like fully just destruction mode over here. Oh my, see, she's agreeing with me, if anything. She's excited. So, and I think, moves like this, we were talking earlier about what do you do with a team that is not willing to compete right now? You make it exciting again for the fans. Whether exciting is a good thing or not, we'll talk about that later, but, make it exciting again for the fans. Get people talking. And I think that's what this trade did.
I agree with a lot of that. I have had about five Rangers that I paid attention to, and Kakko was one of them. I've always enjoyed watching him play. I know he this year has had 14 points over the 30 games that the Rangers had played prior to coming to the Kraken. And I know that there's a difference in forward and defenseman, and they are not always scoring the same pace, but like that makes me significantly more hopeful for the future of the Kraken and where kind of he's going to fit in from here. Um, so I think it was a really good move. Borgen had 2 points in his 32 games with the Kraken. So yeah, I agree with you. I think we won. You can't really win a trade, but we won this one. Um, so yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with the team. And I think it was a really good move by Ron Francis overall. Emotion out of it, because there was a lot of emotion in my household, but emotion out of it. I think that uh Ron did a great job with this.
Yeah, and I mean, just further on like the hockey sense side of it. I mean, you get a guy, um, you know, who's they talk about on the broadcast, especially today, right? In terms of his frame and what it can do going to the net. I mean, Seattle really hasn't had that in the forward department. We talked about that a little bit earlier in the show here. You needed that, and I think I sent that in our group Slack for Kraken here. I really wish Seattle would take advantage. Take advantage is a bad word. Would kind of kick the tires on the players that need a new home, kind of thing, like Patrick Laine. I was really hoping that Seattle would say, "Hey, what do you want? Like, we made a deal with Columbus before. You know that Oliver guy. Like, we're back. We need offense. We know we're gonna have to, be accommodating, be patient with Patrick, and help him however he may need. But we can do that. We've got these new facilities. All this and that. Like, we're ready to go. Obviously Montreal took advantage of that, and shame because Habs fans. But, you know, when you're a team that's so tight, you don't have a lot to spend. They had a decent amount to spend in free agency, and they maybe picked the wrong forward. Um, but we're like Silvia said with the contracts earlier. I mean, I don't know. In my opinion, we're past that. We have to deal with it now. We like if in terms of the winning and losing games, like Philip Grubauer doesn't sit there and say, shit, I get $6 million a year. But Puck, I don't care. Like, oh, man. Louis Decord gets his new contract. 5 million. But come on.
Really good
Like, there are
appreciate.
some instances where that in sports where that is apparent, where they get the big contract and that washes up. Sure, that happens. I don't think that's happening with any of these guys. At least in hockey, it's very, very obvious. You know what I mean? In pro sports, it's generally obvious, but especially in hockey, where you're a skater, like you can just kind of tell. Someone doesn't want it. Someone doesn't have that dog in them. Um, uh, but that like you have to take the low risk, high reward guys like Taco here because you can't afford to do much else. It's either spend big in free agency, and usually the big fish don't hit the market. I had a pipe dream. I was like, hey, let Leon Draisaitl hit free agency and then throw the entire franchise at him. Like it wasn't going to happen. Edmonton was smarter than that. They might stink, but they were smarter than that, and they locked up Leon. He's going to be an oily man for life, probably. Um, but again, really, when was the last real big free agent forward that hit the market? You know, you can tell me. Was it Brad? I mean, I don't remember. It's not that often. Teams
Yeah.
will develop their talent and they will retain them unless they're disgruntled and then Jack Eichel gets traded and damn it, he's got a cup now. Um, or you wait for your forwards, Berkeley Catton, Carson Rakoff, you develop Ryan Winterton fully, you let him bake fully and cook fully, unlike Jade's mac and cheese. You wait. It's either wait or you spend the money when you can, and like you're in this awkward middle, the Kraken are, right? So that's where Kako makes sense to me. And just like on paper, in terms of his frame, in terms of his age, him and I are the same age. We're both 23. I'm highly out of shape right now. He's not. Um, I don't know. And then I look at hockey stat cards with Will Borgen. I don't. Will's obviously he's a stay-at-home defenseman. I'm not gonna claim he's anything else, right? So when I see his negative 4.3 offensive rating, I don't really care that much. But he's got a negative 5.9 defensive rating. That's the thing you need to be good at.
Hmm.
Good.
What they paid you for.
Um, yeah, 2.7 million to be third line, and you're not 2.7 million worthy. Um, so it just wasn't working out. I mean, I'm glad that Seattle was where he was able to kind of establish this because from what reports say, Chris Drury was looking at Will Borgen for a while. So hey, I mean, they saw something in him. They were happy to make the deal with Ronald McDonald. Um, it didn't work out. And personally, I just don't think he was going to be re-signed at the end of this season anyway, because of you have to think of these factors, right? Whether it's age, I don't think age plays out in terms of if they'd give him a deal or not. I'm sure they'd like to keep him, but you see what he was making previously. You see the guys who were ahead of him, in the pecking order. He would have gotten money just like with that fourth line in year two of Donato, Geeky, Sprong. Sprong went and got more opportunity in Detroit. Morgan Geeky, with the problems that the Bruins are having, at times he's played first line minutes for them. I'm not saying he deserves to, but I don't know what's happening over there. Um, and then with Ryan Donato, yeah, he's playing. He's playing with Connor Bedard. Like he was not playing top line minutes here. It's very different situationally, right? So you have to look at these sort of things. I just don't think it would have worked out for Will, unfortunately.
I also, with that, with thinking that he wouldn't get re-signed in free agency, I fully agree with that. But it's nice now that Kakko is a restricted free agent, so there's a higher chance that, especially with as young as he is, if I'm Ron, my thought process is bringing this younger guy in that has been with the Rangers his entire career so far, and ne I'm sure desperately needs a change of scenery based on what's going on over there. Um, and I'm thinking about maybe not like the full future of the Kraken, but like I'm definitely making him a part of the near future of the Kraken.
I mean, at least with his age, I think it makes
Yeah.
sense. What my piece on the emotional side of things is, right? Um, with our job, you know, you kind of do have to be impartial, but as someone who grew up here, I mean, I already have ties to these teams. It's just gonna happen. And I don't know, when you're around them and not long enough, like you kind of do, you know. Um, personally, uh, I have no problem with people were upset, people were frustrated, and with losing. And when losing a favorite player, obviously there's going to be frustration. I'm not going to discredit people for that. I think you're allowed to feel that way. I think some comments that might have been made in that frustration, like this is a fireable offense. No, you could argue that with how Chandler Stevens' contract's playing out and with not being able to sign Matty Beniers to a bridge deal instead of a long-term deal, sure, yeah, that might probably be why he's not here at the end of the year when they don't make the playoffs. Um, But this deal, no. Like, I understand it. I just kind of saw those and I love our friends. I just ignore them, you know. Let people feel how they're going to feel. As long as people aren't going to be racist, bigot, any of that, I don't care. You're going to be frustrated, sure. What I do have an issue with, though, and at least on this show, I'm not going to mention anybody because I don't want to get into the mudslinging business, you know. There's people like putting down folks for feeling this way, right? It's you're an idiot, stuff like that. It's like you're stupid, you're way too emotional. Like, even if they are a little emotional, like, hey man, let people be a fan of the way, let people fan how they are gonna fan again, as long as they're not, being uh again, an asshole about it, racist, bigoted, all that sort of stuff, which there are hockey fans who do that. Too many, unfortunately. Um, I don't care. Like we all three of us know folks who probably said some interesting things after that trade, right? I don't think we're gonna go and tell them to like shut up, you're an idiot, you're stupid for thinking that way, putting like, some people are into degradation, but that's just being an asshole. Like, I don't know. I saw some folks who start their own shows and I noticed the laughing. I'm gonna keep going. Um, and it's just, I don't know, especially if you want to be a content creator in this field, people are gonna feel ways about trades, right? There are guys on this team who will not be here next year. And I don't know how many of them that will be. People will be frustrated with that too, right? There will be guys who could be gone at the trade deadline. Let people feel how they're gonna feel. Whether it is just to not be an asshole or because it gets you engagement. Quick tip. You need that if you're going to succeed here. Quick tip. Um, that's just my piece. Like, I don't care about Will Borgen. I'm not in a negative way or a positive way. It was really cool to have him as an inaugural. He will always have a historic part, whether it is being drafted in the expansion draft, being part of the playoff runs, and in even the video saying, "Hey, playoffs!" Like he's immortalized in this franchise forever. He is. And I'm sure he'll remember this franchise forever because of how he turned his career around here. He was stuck with the Buffalo Sabres for God's sakes. Um, but I don't have any emotion in it, but I have friends who did. I didn't have any problem with it. I mean, I thought some comments were extreme, as I've said, but my biggest issue was the folks who were, being an asshole to those who were feeling those emotions. You get what I'm saying? So that's my piece. This person has since gone and well, there's multiple, but the one in my mind in particular has gone and basically backtracked these comments, probably because he's like, hey, wow, people don't like that I was mean to them. Crazy thought. So how did we go? I think we went Sylvia last time. Jade, we'll go with you. We'll go with Sylvia, and we'll come back. I don't know. Let me hear it. Thoughts, emotions. Kaapo Kakko, Will Borgen. Let's go.
I agree with all of that. I am a Will Borgen fan. I don't know why, but before I got into the reporting side of things, the writing side of things, he was my favorite Kraken. Couldn't tell you why. Like you said, he's not that great, but something about him, I don't know. I liked him. I always enjoyed watching him. So I Let me paint the scene for you. So I'm sitting on my bed, scrolling through TikTok on the day that he gets traded, and I'm like, I haven't checked Twitter in like 20 minutes. Let me swipe back over to Twitter. And I have like 10 different people, not even just group chats, just individual people DMing me, and they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this. What's happening?" And I have people in a Discord tagging me, and I'm like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? And so I go over to NHL News and I see the trade, and I don't think I've ever moved so quickly in my life. I flew down the stairs in my house and like flung myself around the corner into my kitchen, tell Haley, my roommate, about it. And uh it was a rough day in my household. I was very sad. And obviously, the part of me that wants the Kraken to win kind of surpasses that, where I'd rather have them win than have my favorite player on the team that I follow the closest. Um, so that's kind of my thoughts. I also, it's not super cool to make people feel bad for having feelings. is my biggest thing. So as it was happening and I had people, messaging me upset, I'm in a couple different group chats. I was like, okay, well, here's where this can be. Here's how this is a good thing for the Kraken, and here's why this is a positive moving forward. And it wasn't in a demeaning kind of way or like trying to make anybody feel bad that they were upset. It was just like, let's look at some positives here. Because they do exist in every trade. Well, usually, but so that's kind of my thoughts.
Um, yeah, I think similarly, Will Borgen is a friend of a friend, frankly. I know him. He's a friend of a friend. I think in terms of emotions, I come at this more of like I was a One Direction. I was a One Direction stan once in my life. I know all about like heavy emotions on the internet. I think we have a lot of in the Kraken fan side of things on Twitter, on social media, we have a lot of fans who are growing with the team. We have a lot of fans who for this was their first trade, their first like big trade that's gonna hit them hard. Um, this is their Marc-Andre Fleury. That's what this was for a lot of people.
That's true.
Yeah. And I think you going back to our conversation, if you want to grow the game, you have to let people grow with the game. And putting them down for the comments that they make and for being distraught that, Mr. Will Borgen is not on the team anymore. Um, it's it's not just like unkind, but it's also so gatekeeperish in ways that are just hilarious. It's like you cannot police someone for, just crying about a trade. I cried when Math got traded, and several people did too. They continue to cry. And it's something that's going to happen in every sport. It's happened in every sport. You lose teams, you win teams, you lose players, you win players. Like, I think if you're at a point, um, I didn't see a lot. I got a lot of this reaction secondhand. I wasn't really on social media when it was happening, but if you're at a point where you are telling people who are growing with the game, people and even people who have been hockey fans for forever, and they're still upset about this, if you're at a point where you're like, that's not the right way to react to a player, you or to a game or to a team, you don't know sports, right? Like you just a big portion of sports um is being able to emotionally connect with the people that you're watching, with the people that you're watching with. And maybe if all you really care is about the analytics and the game winning goals and this really pretty goal, then maybe you don't know sports the way that you think you do. That's my thoughts on that specific thing. On Kaapo and the future for the Kraken, I think that's kind of where I land more on. I think this trade and what it means for the Kraken, I think it really shows a very simple idea in sports as a whole. And I think it goes back, we keep having this conversation about identity. And I think Kaapo Kakko really demonstrates this like need and want to win, this need and want to play. That I do think that the Kraken are coming together as a team. We've talked about identity a lot, but I do not think they've come together as a team that wants to win just yet. They have no reason to prove themselves just yet. They have no buy-in. But I think Kaapo is like does. I think he does. He has a reason to prove himself, He wasn't doing it with the Rangers. He's doing it here. And I'm really hoping that this, like, again, got his first goal. We've seen him play 2 games now. I'm really hoping that this kind of spurs the team as to like and going back to our like prospect pool, like we want to grow these kids. We want to be able to create something out of these rejected players and out of these up and coming players, and like give them that want to win. And I think that that's really going back to, where we are as a team. That's really what's going to change our team is players like, hopefully change our team, is players like Kaapo Kakko who have a reason to prove themselves. That is what we need as a Kraken fandom, as a Kraken team, is we want to have a reason to prove ourselves. We want to have a reason to be the Kaapo Kakkos you want to see in the world. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Oh, oh, my hockey stick's over there. I would go and do the stick tap, but it's lodged behind something. So maybe at the end of the episode, I'll do that. One of you talking, I'll go unjam it from that wall. The big thing I'll take from that before we get into what this team needs to do to avoid selling at the deadline. I mean, unless you want to. They are currently sitting at the fifth overall pick, which um what Silvia said about, how there are, you talk about fans who don't, there are some people who do care about the analytics and there are some who don't. I really like what we do with our coverage, and it's not to toot my own horn. I don't have a horn around here. Um, the way we do our coverage, because yeah, sure. I mean, we'll talk about, I don't know, expected goals, and there's the PDO and all this stuff. That's great. I talk about baseball. My mom will text me about a Mariners article. She's like, "What's WRC plus?" And I'm like, "Okay, I'll type it out for my poor Filipino mother who doesn't give two shits about baseball, right?" Um, there are people who like, the silly little collectibles, and they like to see the little collectibles. You know,
Mine is on
people
my
like
bookshelf over there.
People like to see the collectibles. They like to see the new things in the store. They like to see the events that they're running. They like to see, the special jerseys. They like to see the silly moments. I remember the Mariners traded for a guy named Josh Rojas 2 years ago. And the first media availability we got with him, which um was after the trade deadline, right? Um, those days are always hectic after the trade deadline because you get all these new players and you want to talk to him, and all the local media want to talk to him. He says he likes dogs. I know we have people who like dogs. I tweeted about it. I was like, Josh Rojas says he's a dog lover. He's got blah blah blah, and there was some account that was like, "Wow, this is what we're talking about." Like, fuck you, man. I'm gonna clip that so I can use it as a reaction. Um, there are people who like that though. I'm serious. Like there are people who do not care too much about, the deeper stuff about what Kaapo Kakko's freeze time is. Like I really enjoy that we can do that and not be so serious all the time. I think even when both of you um came here is like I just kind of said, "Hey, you don't have a leash. If there's something that I think is weird and maybe we shouldn't write about, we won't." But I haven't had that issue, you know. Um, so I think it is important to not, you know, um, disregard certain fans or put down fans in general, or think one way. I might think one way and think something important. That was not grammar. No, you get the point. I might talk a certain way and view the way this team needs to approach the season a certain way. But if someone is just like, "Hey, I just like what you posted morning skate about the stupid puck that's in the wall." Hey man, I'm glad I can do that. I like the stupid like hashtag real journalism. The Kraken haven't lost on Hispanic Heritage Night. Hey, hey, right?
Welcome. Welcome.
See? Real journalism.
I also
That's I'm sorry. That's just why I like to do the coverage the way we do, because, anybody can go and look at a box score and come up with a recap. It's just unfortunate. I see it often now. It's fine. But the different things that we do these puppy videos with these players and we want to expand that. No one else does that. It's
Mhm.
silly. You get what I'm saying, right? So that's why I like that, and that's why I like that you mentioned that. Anyway,
Yeah, I also think a lot of people who like sports for the numbers forget that these players are entertainers and that they are paid to be
yeah,
entertainers. And one of the first time I was ever at Climate Pledge, I sat there. So I took a Kraken hockey class in college. And it was about, yeah, I know. It was about like the social and like economic impacts of
Mm,
hockey in our world.
yeah.
And I got to write this awesome essay about the way the Climate Pledge Arena was constructed, because of the stage, the way that the stage is set up, where they have,
Oh,
you have your ice, but then everybody who is on the seats has a really, really good view to look up at that stage where they do all of the presentations and the mini games, and they have music and they have Bowie up there doing Bowie things. Like the entire arena is built to entertain, because there you go. Because Climate Pledge has like, and hockey as a whole, these players are entertainers. So it makes sense that people want to learn a little bit more about them, that isn't just, how many goals expected did they miss or whatever. So if people are really connected with the specific player and then they get upset that this player got traded, I think that is even better for the game. You know, if people want to create a little, edit of Will Borgen dancing, singing in the rain, even better. Like you should want your teams and your fans to like take this game as like a sandbox and make it better for people.
yeah.
And make it better for themselves, honestly. I don't know, everybody can enjoy sports differently.
Mhm.
And kind of going into what Charles said about the way that CSS runs and how we don't just focus on numbers and, we try to add some little fun facts. And I've started to kind of do that after games. Like today, I had the fact of the Kraken have been outshot by at least 9 shots on goal in the past 5 losses. Or no, three out. No, hold on.
Three
Can you edit
lost
that
five.
out? That was so bad. My brain just stopped mid-sentence. Outshot by at least 9 shots on goal in 3 out of the past 5 losses, which is, that's a pretty easy thing to find, but that's not something that I saw anybody else talking about. But
Sure. Yeah.
I noticed it between last night and tonight where I was like, there's maybe a pattern happening. Let me go back and look over this specific losing streak. And uh, that's more than I expected. I was expecting like 2 out of 5. So I don't know. I think it's important to do little fun facts and, this player really likes dogs. Oh, look, there's a dog in the media cubby. Like things like that. That's all. It can bring a different kind of fan to the game than just like, I'm here for sport and nothing else. I don't care about the players. I don't care about the people. I don't care that they're real people. Give me the numbers, essentially.
Yeah. No, I think there's as you've both said in differing ways and in similar ways, there are so many ways that you can be a fan, whether it's the little collectibles, you like the bobblehead nights, or you have a really cartoon version of, oh, I think I have one. It's not a sports card, but it'll work. You've taken a little sports card and you've put little charms on it. Like, hey man, oh Jesus. The Mariners had a boy band called Enhypen coming throughout the first pitch. And it was the closest thing we've experienced in engagement to like I think I don't know how it would compare to the height of Five Sauce, but it was like we were getting engagement out of the ass because those guys threw out the first pitch and we had video and photos of it. There's like 8 members of the band. 3 of them threw out the first pitch. So it was like the 3 members, and they were very nice. Like I think it was like Swifties. If I would have pissed them off, they would have killed me and I wouldn't be here anymore. But since I was nice to them and gave them what they wanted, they were very nice to us. Like those folks just wanted to see the first pitch. Some people just wanted to see Humpy and the salmon run for the Mariners, right? Like, I don't know. I just think you're a total dick cheese if you're really weird about the way people are fans. If it doesn't impact you, why do you care? And
Hmm.
that's how I view life overall. So,
Hey, Charles.
hey Jen.
Hey. Where are you going to watch all those Kraken away games?
Kraken away games, making a push. I was thinking of coming here just because Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, only if that's okay with you.
I mean, I love that idea. Hope to see you here.